Hey folks, Riley Evans from TheOcho.ca here with Austin Evans. Final time that we're coming at you live from the CP Women's Open. It's been a tremendous week. Unfortunately, it's been a tough day for Brooke Henderson on the course, and it's looking like, Austin, she's not going to be driving into the winner's circle this week.
Yeah, she's going to definitely come up a couple short. A valiant sort of fight all day. She definitely didn't bring her best game today, but she fought hard, and she still, entertained the crowds, made a couple birdies later in the round, and I think just overall, definitely a successful week. Yesterday's round of 63 will probably be the highlight for her, but in her quest to win her National Open, I think this was probably a step in the right direction, and I think just a big week in general for the sport of golf in Canada.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's important to recognize that Brooke gets the weight of the world sort of heaped on her shoulders. I mean, 37 million people in this country are looking for her as the person, clearly the best golfer in the country, male or female, looking to her as the one that's most likely to bring home a national championship. The reality is that she's still 19 years old, and she has a very long time to be able to win one of these tournaments.
I completely agree. I think having this much success this early in her career, sometimes it's a blessing and a curse for her at this point in her career. It seems like it's a blessing, and I think she just really enjoyed the week. Like we said before, she had a lot of obligations this week, and the fact that she was able to perform this well was pretty surprising, given she maybe didn't have as much time to work on her game as she probably would during a normal week, having 2 pro-ams and such. So I think overall she'll probably look back on this week fondly, getting to play in front of her hometown fans, and I think it was just, it was a blast to be here, that's for sure.
Absolutely, it was a blast for us too. Right now, Sungyoung Park is up to, and I think her main contenders have 3 holes left to play. Mm-hmm. She's posted at 13 under par. What are the odds somebody catches her?
It's definitely there. 17 being a short par 3 and 18 being a par 5. You can make 2 birdies coming in. It's just a matter of being able to do the shots under the utmost pressure, knowing you have to do it. But I think 13 is probably a good number. I see that probably holding up, and at the very least probably in a playoff, maybe if the one player who I think was at 11 could catch her. But and I think going into today, that's sort of the number that I had penciled was around there. Not to toot my own horn, but I think that the course definitely. I think the course definitely played more difficult than they thought, and there were some good scores, but at the same time, I think a lot of players were befuddled by the greens this week. A lot of missed putts, a lot of confused looks, and ultimately that was the defense of the golf course, was just the players' inability to get over the surfaces.
Yeah. For me, I think given the fact that it is getting colder, so the ball is not traveling as far anymore, and the wind is definitely pick up, I agree. I think 13 under par is definitely likely going to get it done for Sungyoung Park. Speaking of what you were talking about with the surfaces and such, why don't you just give us your overall take on the course itself and sort of the playing surfaces and the conditions that the Ottawa Hunting Golf Club has given these players?
In terms of conditioning, I think the staff did an incredible job in making sure that the course was ready to play after getting all the rains on Tuesday and having the surfaces in such good shape. However, ultimately, at the end of the day, this probably isn't my favorite course, and I know some of them said that the players, we've definitely heard mixed reviews about it.
Yeah. And
I think just some of the greens, they're not as conducive to what they would say fair surfaces would be. That's ultimately why they can't shoot low scores at this course, because it's not a particularly long course. You get a lot of roll, some of these big bounding fairways, and you do have to. There are holes that are difficult, and there are holes that are good,
but that's the case for every golf course, right?
Exactly. But some of the surfaces are they're a little bit too much, and not to say that the best player this week didn't win, but I just think that some of the dead elephants in the greens that are buried under there, making these surfaces that difficult. At the end of the day, it's not my favorite course. I know some people will say differently, but in terms of conditioning, they did an amazing job.
Yeah. I think it definitely makes sense that the player that was able to shoot the one super low round of the week was the player that is the most familiar with the course. That, of course, Brooke Henderson, who is a member here. Also, it may pay dividends to take off your reader view hat when criticizing the club. But moving on. Regardless of what issues we may or may not have with the course, I think it's been a tremendous week, not only for Ottawa, not only for the Hunt Club, but for Canadian golf in general. And before you get into your take on that, I just want to first of all thank the Hunt Club for hosting this event, for Golf Canada and the LPGA Tour for giving us at TheOcho.ca the opportunity to be here and give this coverage to you folks at home. And it was a tremendous opportunity. We had a blast. We had a lot of fun being here. And so we're very thankful for that. But just tell us what you think about the week for Canadian golf.
I definitely think it's a big week. Having it come back to the nation's capital, having it being, Brooke's hometown, and having her get into contention and play well. I think, seeing the crowds out here this week, especially all the young people who are following her and really look up to her, I think this could be a real spark that gets the junior golf program moving. Not to say that it's not, because there is a lot of fantastic young Canadian players, and they're all developing. But this could be sort of where different opportunities come out from this, because people who usually wouldn't be watching, the LPGA Tour got to see the just absolute world-class play this week. And I think that's one of the things that I really picked up was people going like, wow, like they would say, oh, so-and-so, I'd never seen them before, but they're so incredible. Like, they're really, really good. And I think they're
on the LPGA Tour.
They've always
they're
been
one of the best players in the world.
Exactly. So I think just getting that exposure and having it, the broadcast and everything that goes around it, I think it was definitely, it could be a thing that we look back on in the future and really say that was the week where Canadian golf really spurred forward. Yeah,
and I think that's the thing. I think Brooke Henderson is who we wanted Mike Weir to be. The truly great, dominant Canadian golfer. I think Mike Weir obviously won the Masters, won multiple tournaments on the PGA Tour, but never really had a sustained period where he was amongst the best players in the world as much. Whereas Brooke Henderson, she's been in the top 10 for a substantial period of time now. She's won 4 tournaments already.
The one thing I would say to that comparison is, one, Mike Weir did not really... He was a lot older when he sort of got on tour, so he was more of a late bloomer, whereas obviously Brooke, it's been well documented that she was a phenom and has basically been very competitive on the LPGA Tour since she was a teenager. But, I mean, Mike Weir in the early to mid-2000s was, a top 10 player in the world, and maybe didn't show the ability to win as early and as often as Brooke did, but he was still a very good player. And I think it's easy to forget how good he was, because we've sort of had these recent few years where he's basically, hasn't played up to the standard that he's wanted to play, and the fact that his calling card is always going to be, he won the 2003 Masters. He was still the sort of preeminent figure of the turn, going into this century in Canadian golf, and I don't think he should be forgotten. But they're two totally different situations. But I do agree with you in the sense that Brooke is the transcendent figure.
Yes,
that Mike was, but she sort of like carried it, even brought it to the next level.
And the reality is that we could be looking at her as a dominant figure for conceivably the next 20 years.
She could. Well, I mean, like, I wouldn't be surprised if she's able to make it to world number 1 within the next, 1, 2, 3 years, because she's got the game. And she's young enough where she can get a lot better. She has a lot of time to even get better and more consistent, because in this game of looking for consistency, which is really unattainable, that's pretty much what the golf game is, managing misses.
Yeah. Well, again, it's been a tremendous opportunity to be here. Austin, I'm happy you enjoyed yourself. I certainly did. And we're happy that we were able to bring, especially on this Sunday, when we thought of the idea of doing these things about 3 hours ago, we're happy that we were able to bring this coverage to you folks at home. I'm Riley Evans. That's Austin Evans. We're from TheOcho.ca, and we will see you soon.